beautiful WrestleRoni from me and for you. One that I think's long overdue. Can you believe it? Right in front of you, the mobile home wrecker himself, Bruce Gray. How we doing, my man?
Doing well, doing real well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, thank you for coming on. I know you're not one big on interviews, not doing a whole lot of interviews, so I appreciate you.
Yep, absolutely. I've for at least 10 years, I think I've done well, in 11 years I've probably done two. If that
Really?
gives you an idea. Yeah, and it's been probably a decade since I've done one or close to it at least, but time's right to at least bust some out between now and the end of March and get them out there while you can.
I appreciate you. I'm in elite company, being one of the few in a few years. It is appreciated, my man. Glad to have you on here. A lot of fans have wrote in questions. We got a lot of questions for you from fans. Of course, I want to pick your brain, get all the knowledge I can while I have you. So glad to have you on, man. It's good to see you back in the ring. Good to see you back in the ring lately. How's it feel to be back in there with Ron and just kicking folks' asses?
Uh, uh, Fun. It's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a good time. But at the same time, my body absolutely hates me. So it's good for the soul, terrible for the body. Especially trying to get back into ring shape, which I'm sure we'll expand upon injuries upon injuries, and especially the last 6 months. It's been an experience to say the least.
You're being tested, to say the least, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Since September, it's been one heck of a roller coaster. We can just catch things up
Yeah,
if you
man.
want, just to fill everybody in. So I've got a
Sure.
history of shoulder issues, especially my right shoulder. Had severe dislocations in 2017 and two in 2020 and one in 2021 before I had surgery. They put six anchors in,
Mm.
rehabbed it for 6 months, and then I had a good two, at least, yeah, good 2 years of rolling a full schedule, feeling better than I ever had. And one misstep, that's what we do with wrestling. You're playing with fire. You're always going to get hurt, but the injuries is what you try to avoid. One misstep, September 1st, and that set me back a big way. Um, September 1st, then September 8th, I had another dislocation. So that was number 5 and number 6. Then I rehabbed it for 2 months, took 2 months out of the ring, and came back for the DD Trash and Major Players match at ASW. Was just getting rolling at the 3 month mark of no problems, and I put a coat on the wrong way and dislocated my shoulder again. That
Mm.
was the first week of December. 2 weeks later, rolling over on it sleeping, I dislocated it again. So we're sitting at 10 weeks since an incident. It's almost like the workplace incident board, where it's like so many weeks since the last incident. We're at 10 weeks right now. And the last little bit, well, thankfully, I'm a tag team guy. I've always been a tag team guy. Probably 80% of the matches that I've had in my 11 years have been tag team matches, whether it's with Ronnie or with Tyler Vox or with John Murray, or various partners over the years. I've always been a tag team guy, so I can lean upon them. And, Ronnie's a hell of a person to lean on. Same with Tyler. I haven't got the team with John Murray since my injury, but, his style is completely different, and it's always good to lean on them. But the last month, I've tried to see what I got in the ring, and my body hates me. Trying to get back into ring shape has been difficult. Trying to get back into ring wind, trying to get the body callus back, things like that. But yeah, it's fun, but at the same time, good for the soul, terrible for the body.
Nah, man. How do you find the balance? Because I know the joy I get just running a camera at ringside and the endorphins I get, let alone being a performer. But then you know how your body's going to feel afterwards. How do you find that delicate balance?
It's like any other addiction. You when you get that high from it, you're always going to be chasing that purple dragon. So for example, I had 4 matches over the weekend in 3 days. The last day was, part of a couple birthday parties at Appalachian Championship Wrestling, and I had so much fun, so much fun. Um, I'm pretty good at putting people's faces in cakes. I'm 4 for 4 right now with that,
Nice.
and I had an instance there as well, which I'm sure the footage will come out eventually. But the entire way home, I felt great.
Hmm.
The next morning, I couldn't move. But you still think about that purple dragon that every once in a while you think you can ride it. Sometimes you can catch on to the tail of it, but there's worse addictions to have. I mean,
For sure.
so
Yeah, this one's putting smiles on faces. It's not ruining people's lives. So except for
exactly
yours.
right. I mean, I wouldn't. It's all been an experience. All things considered, all injuries considered, I would not trade uh, the last 11 years for anything. I mean, no honest. I mean, just to get into that. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
literally wasted my 20s delving into alcoholism. It's been 11 years since I've had a drink, and a big part of that has been getting into wrestling and finding something new to get my brain working and everything else. So uh, as as the chapter's starting to close, because I know I've got more matches behind me than I have in front of me. It's finding that new thing, whether it's staying within wrestling to scratch that itch, or trying that Tuesday night open mic comedy, or whatever it's got to be. I'm looking for something always, just to keep my brain busy, because I know who I am, I know how I am, and I know what I need to do. If that makes sense.
Kudos to you, man. Not a drop in 11 years, and a lot of folks, we've all seen Dark Side of the Ring. We know how wrestling goes. It's a very tempting business. And let it be known, too, while you were banged up, you were still making towns. You were still on shows. I mean, I was still seeing you all over the place, whether you was getting in the mic or helping Ronnie in a random match here and there. So, hey, props to you, man. I think you've got it figured out.
I'm every day I'm trying to figure it out. I wouldn't say I've got it figured out, but every day I'm trying. It's just a matter of keeping busy and keeping the brain working on on productive things and not the things that will tear you down. And I'm fortunate with Ronnie and that we've built a pretty solid brand with DD Trash, especially the last 3 years. We've had a really good run, and the places that there's not DD Trash, there's a completely different side of us with WTF with me, Ronnie, and Tyler Vox.
Hmm.
So places like Spot Monkey Promotions, Paradigm, or Rise in Pennsylvania, they see a little different side of us as well, but we're still, it's a good time.
Yeah, heck yeah. I even see you in XVW up in Ohio. I watch their show religiously. What can you tell me about working for those folks?
I haven't been there since September, which I know they've been on a hiatus, but they're trying to get things rolling again.
Hmm.
Great fans, really great fans, and anybody that devotes anything to a weekly product is another level. Both on asking it from the fans, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday to spend their money and come out to see you, because everybody's got jobs, they've got other things to do, they've got to run their kids around to the what the kids have to do. So when you get a good diehard fan base like that, I mean, it's fantastic. And from a wrestler's perspective, having weekly work, something you can try things out, see what works, see what doesn't work, that helps as well in a lot of ways. And it from someone when you're new breaking in, if you can get weekly work, that gets your match count up. And I'm a firm believer in getting your reps in, getting your matches up. To find out what works and what doesn't, because I can tell you, I'm definitely not the wrestler I am today from what I was 1,000 matches ago, and it's taken a long way to get there. And I truly didn't feel like I found who I was until the last 2, 3 years, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, take me back to those earlier years, if you will, if experimenting with this and that. What was you seeing was working for you? What was definitely not working? How do we find that groove?
um, it, it's trial and error. I mean, just from, and we can expand upon a little bit if you want to further, but I've had 2 careers in wrestling.
Okay.
I was a referee from 2000, 2001. I know I was in high school up into, I think, 2007.
Oh wow.
A lot of experience, a lot of miles. Had a TNA appearance. I Was able to go overseas for one PW, and I was able to do a couple handfuls of Midwest shots for Ring of Honor. So I was able to share the ring with a lot of really good people. I was able to travel the road with a lot of really good people. So just through osmosis, I was able to learn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Through a bit of like what we touched on before, through the alcoholism and everything else, I had to kind of get out of it and go away for a little bit. And I also got back into dirt track racing, XYZ, you name it. But I went to a show in late 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't seen anybody, because when you're in wrestling and you get out of wrestling, some people say, well, you kind of die. It's not, you don't die to them per se, but what you do is when you see people on the regular and you're in that community for such a long time, and then you go away from it, you have a way of disappearing. Even with social media, I maybe was friends with a handful of people, but there was not a lot of contact. But it was a show in Lancaster, Ohio, and just on a whim, we had a rain out in racing, so I had an open Saturday, and I went to the show. It was promoted by one of my my early writing partners in James Avery, the gentleman who runs the Ohio Pro Wrestling Academy. He was promoting it. The main event had Commodore Slane, a gentleman who used to wrestle as Albie Dam. He was my other writing partner against Ron Mathis in the main event. So there's some synchronicity there between everything. And in the first match, Jeremy Madrox, who was my former roommate, he pointed me out. He recognized me right away, told everybody in the back that I was there. And within a couple matches, somebody drug me out of the crowd, put a ref shirt on me, and I was literally drugged back into business.
Nice.
And James offered to train me. And at first, I wanted to really more be a Bobby Heenan manager type. And then I figured out that along the way, I don't know, I became a wrestler. And thus, Bombastic Bruce was created. And that was me trying what I thought would work. And in hindsight, I was more of a Colt Cabana ripoff.
Okay.
Uh, and, you know, you kind of, I don't know, the way I've never really just been one to just change up personas or what have you, but it's kind of been an ever long evolution. And it's kind of like a band releasing a new album and kind of changing themselves along the way. Little tweaks here and there, little tweaks here and there. And that's where I stumbled upon my DDT because there was a time that you heard a lot of people saying that a DDT was just a transitional move or that nobody had one that worked. I studied a lot of tape. I practiced. I studied a lot of tape and figured out the secrets of it, in particular to Arn Anderson's and Jake Roberts. And so I found that. So I went from, you know, a ha-ha kind of comedy guy to more of a no-nonsense guy who worried more about his DDT. But then within that, I started finding myself in the ring with a lot better people, guys who, you know, had way more experience than me. And that's where I really started getting good. Every time I wrestled Ron Mathis, every time I wrestled Aaron Williams and guys like that, I upped my game. Every time I wrestled someone like Marion Fontaine, that gave me a different perspective as well. And along the way, I think the mobile home record thing, I don't know, it hit me in the brain 4 years ago, 5 years
Okay.
ago, whatever it was. And, you know, that's where the Daisy Dukes came into play. And then, you know, it's become more and more fun as we go along.
The ladies seem to love
Yeah, that's
it.
that's absolutely been a part of it, and it's been some of the most fun. Whether it's getting tip jar money or just finding a reason to shake my tushy, it's absolutely been a lot of fun with it, and it's a good dichotomy with me and Ronnie now because you know he can be the tough one, I can
Mhm.
be the sexy one, or whatever it is that we do. But then when he tries to dance and do what I do, that's when I just got to shake my head at him. But yes, you're absolutely right. The ladies do enjoy the mobile home wrecker, and I do as well.
Well, there you go. Good. Good. It works for both parties. I like it.
Yeah, and but like I said, that it took a lot of time, a lot of miles, working a lot of places. You know, not just staying in one area or with one group of people, but I hopped in the car with Ronnie because we live in the same town.
Mhm.
I hopped in the car with him maybe 2 months in the business, or back in the business wrestling, at the suggestion of Jeremy Madrox, because he thought we would click, and I didn't think we would. I figured, you know, with his abrasive personality at times, and he thought I was a geek, so he thought the same thing. But we've put a lot of miles in together, a lot of miles in together. We've had a lot of matches, teaming together. We've had probably more matches against each other than anybody. And yeah, you either got to get better when you're in the car with somebody like that, or you're just gonna flounder.
I'm sure. Yeah, and you guys complement each other well. It definitely works. And you're the kind of guest we've been needing on the show for a minute because we've had a lot of young guns, and that's fine. But when we get the young guns on here, we kind of talk about the old guard and how they hate for things to change. I'm not saying that's you, but you get to represent some guys that's been in the business for a few. You've been around, you was reffing back in '01. Tell me about some of the good changes you've seen in our scene as far as independent wrestling or even wrestling in general. Some of the negative. Give me the good, bad, and the ugly. What have you been seeing?
So I can tell you, crowds are a lot better.
Good.
I can tell you there was a moment, and I don't exactly know what year it was or what caused it, but there was a moment when just getting 100 fans was like, oh my gosh, this is a great crowd, because independent wrestling, uh, there was a lull for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's that, and just and having crowds who care, no matter how big or small, as long as they care, that makes things a lot easier as well. Um, I can tell you, guys used to be a lot scarier. The vets were.
Right.
And not necessarily a bad thing, but if you were ever in the ring with someone like Bull Payne, he just scared you, from a standpoint of just aura. He brought an aura to things. Um, there's always there's always going to be the bad in terms of the crooks, the guys who run the one show and then they're done and whatnot. But with social media, that's helped quite a bit.
Right.
Uh, Also, I mean, I remember the days of to advertise, you had to do the local flyering and you had to hope to pay the spot for Monday Night Raw. Now, with a sponsored Facebook post, you can get the reach out there quite a bit. That doesn't mean that, hitting the town and local flyering doesn't help, but just the technology of everything has made things a lot easier. YouTube has made things a lot easier. I remember making a tape as a referee with, James Avery's dad's like dual deck and the whatnot. Now you just send a YouTube video if you want to send a tape. So all those things, technology's made things a lot easier. Um, there used to be some of the guys, previous generations wouldn't want to help out the younger guys because they were more protective of their spots.
Right.
To me, I think if you can get if you can get the tide to rise, all the boats are going to be, whatever that analogy is, they're going to float or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I was very fortunate. I did a lot of shows with Tracy Smothers, and Tracy Smothers is the epitome of the vet that you want. There's not a man that cared about wrestling more, and there's not a man that I don't know. He just was the best. Tracy would watch every match from behind the curtain, and you would come through the curtain. He would tell you everything you did right, everything you did wrong, but Tracy cared in a way that I don't know that others can. I find myself a lot of times asking myself, what would Tracy do in situations? Because he was always working hard. He was always trying to give the fans their money's worth. And he was always trying to help the younger guys as well. So you'll see a lot of posts of guys probably around my age. And I think AIW just had one where they posted a picture of Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to it's going to be really hard to find someone to say something negative about him. And that was a guy who was in the NWA, WCW, ECW, WWF, toured Japan. He was everywhere. And even to his dying days, he was making towns. And he was very outwardly, he worked at Sandy's Pizza, and he would say that, there was a lot of Tracyisms with him, but he would, one of them was that he was working to support his wrestling habit. and that's independent wrestling, for a lot of people, because it is that addiction for a lot of us. But yeah, I for one miss Tracy every day. I've got tons of good Tracy stories, and I was fortunate that I maybe one of the few people that was able to referee Tracy Smothers matches. I was able to wrestle Tracy, and I was able to manage Tracy one time. So
He,
I'm very, very, very fortunate that I had those experiences with him.
I'm glad you brought him up for some of the younger fans that might not know, because the way I found Tracy Smothers was the FBI and ECW. Then I found his old stuff, and then now you hear the stories. I've had plenty of folks just like yourself talk about how he watched every match and how he was always helping the boys in the back. So I'm glad you brought him up. Is there a crazy Tracy story that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not necessarily crazy, but it's one that sticks out to me for a lot of good reasons. We So it's 2005,
Hmm.
and it's the 1PW's first event. It was booked by Joe Dombrowski and Kingdom James, and it was really more of an American Super Show, to the point that they paid referees to be on the show, both myself and AEW's Bryce Remsburg.
Okay.
And this story will start to sound like just a barrage of name dropping, but to set the stage, it was literally an American Super Show. If you go back and look at the card, it had you had like AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn, Christopher Daniels, Steve Carino, Al Snow, D'Lo Brown, but also there was two planes that were coming in from America. The first plane was full of the majority of the workers, and then the second plane had four of us. But so the first plane had a lot of people who didn't look normal. You had Sandman, you had Raven, you had the Blue Meanie, you had Abyss. You had all these guys who stood out, and passed the airport test for one reason or another, where they were going to turn your eye.
Right.
And nobody that I know of had wrestling visas. So the trick used to be when you would get to customs, you would say that you're on vacation, or that you're there to go train, or you're there for a wedding, or what have you. And on the first flight, everybody told a different story, but they dropped the name Stephen Gauntlet, which was the promoter's name.
Okay.
The customs agent was a surly old man, and he kind of figured it out by the time everybody was there, or had gone through customs. Everybody had gone through no problem, but the second plane had me, Bryce, Chris Sabin, and Tracy. And as we go through, it's a little later at night. It's not nearly as busy, and Chris is the first one that goes up to the counter, and he says, "Well, I'm here for wrestling training," he says, I think. And that gentleman behind the counter busts out the flyer for 1PW Cruel Twist of Fate and says, "Well, looks like you're on this with all these other American wrestlers. Why don't you sit down? We might talk to you here in a minute."
Uh-oh.
I'm 21. Me and Bryce kind of freeze up, and we're like, "We're referees, but we're not getting paid," which was kind of a lie, but we were trying to just get through. But we knew that we were kind of busted.
Uh-huh.
And we're sitting there, and we're sitting there, and they, Tracy goes up, and Tracy's 6'3", big curly hair, and he's got that Tennessee accent.
Hmm.
And they look at his passport. And so if this is 2005, passports are good for 10 years. He's got a lot, a lot of international tours on his passport that's stamped. A lot of trips to Japan. He used to do the South African shots as well. He's got a lot of things stamped on his passport. And the customs agent says, "Mr. Smothers, you've been all over the world. What are you with these guys? What's the deal?" And he says, "Oh no, man, I'm just a maintenance man now, but I used to be a bodyguard for a pop singer. She wasn't that famous, but you probably wouldn't heard of her. But I was a bodyguard for a pop singer." And somewhere along the way, maybe it was through the southern charm of Tracy or what, but after an hour and a half of sitting there sweating bullets, we were able to get through into the country and able to do the show and whatnot. So I like to think that Tracy kept us from getting kicked out of England that weekend.
Heck yeah. One of the many good deeds of Tracy Smothers. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Absolutely. The wrestling world is definitely a lot better with the time that Tracy put in it. And there's a lot of guys like me that miss him every time we are at an event and he's not there.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. And I wasn't fortunate enough to know him, but I'm fortunate enough to see how you two treat others and how some of my peers, the folks that I work with, look up to you guys. It seems like you took that to heart. You got guys like Logan Taylor, I can think of, the PWL crew. It looks like you're looking out for this generation because let me tell you, I'm the first to say ego's necessary in wrestling, and I can tell you and Ron are very sure of who you are, but you've never come off like pricks to me. So props on that, I suppose. You know, you found that line. But who's some of the younger guys you see coming up that you think are going to do well in the business?
Well, Logan, since you brought him up, he's he's still a work in progress, but I've noticed here recently. Well, I'm looking back at old pictures. The kid's lost a lot of weight, getting himself into shape, and just needs to keep working at it, applying his applying that craft and finding what works and what doesn't. But you notice the hard work along the way, and I told him the last time I saw him, I thought I saw some abs popping through,
Mm-hmm.
which is always good. I mean, not everybody needs to be a bodybuilder or anything. I mean, goodness, I'm not, but you got to look on a flyer. You got to look like somebody's going to pay to see you. I can tell you, Troy Parker and Nurse Micah have put a lot of miles in recently, and you're starting to see it.
Sure.
I'll give you a story here. Troy was a part of the last Paradigm taping down in Kentuckiana at the famed arena in Jeffersonville, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very much a case with those shows that they are 5 and 6 hour tapings. Very open and upfront that it's a streaming product. I mean, yeah, there's a live crowd, which is thankful because the pandemic era taught everybody that wrestling in front of nobody is extremely difficult.
Right.
Uh, but that crowd is going to see a lot. It's that roster is very, very good with guys from all over. And I watched Troy Parker get a standing ovation in his match and get offered a roster spot right then and there
Nice.
in front of everybody. And I've not seen that on those tryout shows a lot. I wrestled him last summer, I think, in maybe his sixth match in a tag match. And yeah, he's definitely come a long way, come a long, long way. Um, I just wrestled Noah Ray recently,
Mm-hmm.
and goodness gracious, he's a big old boy. He's an Iron Bull, and he's bringing it. He's another one who a couple years ago he's starting to find himself. Um, Definitely find himself. And Scott Anderson wrestled him last year, I think. He looked like he showed up for a pickup basketball game, and then when he found out he was wrestling us, he looked scared to death. And he's got some. There's some weird, good things about him. I mean, they terrible company they all keep, and terrible company, but fight him any day of the week. He's got something there with his personality. And he's going to keep finding himself along the way. And that's really it. I mean, wrestling and getting reps and getting reps and getting reps, and not just in the same territory. You've got to go and you've got to wrestle people better than you. Every time you wrestle someone better than you with a lot more experience, you're going to go away from it learning something. And at the same time, there is something to be said for going somewhere new and wrestling a shithead. There's a learning experience there as well. Maybe not as much, and you don't always want to do that. You don't want to. You don't want to. I'm trying to think of the word for it. You don't want to just go to another state, lose money for the sake of it, is to say that you went to another state.
Right.
You want to try to get something out of it. I can look at wrestling a lot of ways like comedy because that's something else that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when you see a comedian have an hour, that hour they've worked on for probably at least a year,
Okay.
but they make it look easy. But it first starts with 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes they've got to fine tune it and fine tune and hone it and fine tune it. And what may have worked, maybe looked good on paper, didn't work, but then through the course of a live experience, that's where it's at, because you can train all day long, but until you see what hits with a live crowd, you're not going to know for sure.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I appreciate that. Let's talk about RSW. I'm always curious about the early years of RSW because I wasn't around for those shows. Tell me about those early years working for the promotion, if you would, and then tell me what differences you saw when you just recently came back to the promotion.
Okay. I can tell you that that little church in Fairmont developed a quite a rabid fan base, to the point that we loved going there wrestling. There's a match that may be the probably my favorite, but it may be the best match between myself and Ron Mathis that we've ever had.
Really?
And absolutely, I, I know it's online. I can't remember if you uploaded it, but I have seen it in the last few months.
Okay.
Uh, it's and it starts with a DDT pow driver dueling chant for a good 2 to 3 minutes. And we beat the crap out of each other. And it's a good, I don't know, 15, 18, 20-minute match. But we've had a lot of really good matches against each other. I'm glad I don't have to wrestle Ronnie anymore because I'm tired of it. Uh, he's way tougher than I am in a lot of ways. Just sometimes I could be a little bit smarter than him.
There you
Uh,
go.
if I could lure him into that DDT, it would normally work. But that Fairmont fan base was great to wrestle in front of. And that's something that I saw when we went back, just a rabid fan base, making a lot of noise. We had, when I wrestled Billy Knox, I, he was probably 75% of the crowd, maybe 80%, maybe 90%, but there was still, quite a bit of people just caring and making noise, and that's what you want. Just a good, energetic fan base, because that energy is, in a weird way, contagious. It's kinetic, and we absolutely feed off of it. Absolutely.
Heck
I
yeah.
don't care. I don't care who you cheer for, who you boo for. Just care. Just care and
Yeah.
make. That's the best part.
Please, yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know I was on a show over the weekend where some folks were not happy about how the crowd was not responding. So, yeah, man, don't go to a wrestling show just to look at your phone. Like, enjoy the wrestling for the love of God.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and that's something that is more difficult that we do have to deal with in 2024 and going forward. I mean, it's not just shorter attention spans, but everybody's got cell phones in their pockets.
Yep.
If you notice at the grocery store, and everybody has a tendency to do it, if you've got 30 seconds of downtime, you're pulling your phone out, you're checking it. And
Mm-hmm.
then, some people have TikTok brain where they literally, it's got to be looking at that phone quite a bit. It's not good, and it's difficult at times, but and there's nothing worse is literally if you're wrestling and putting your body through the ringer and you see somebody just on their phone. So that is something, but that also means it's on us to hold their attention, one way or another. We have to give them their money's worth, and that's a big thing that I'm on anyway. Is it's our responsibility to give fans their money's worth, because it's typical Saturday night, Friday night, what have you. People are spending money to see us, whether it's seeing us directly, for one person or another, or just the overall event for that time. Whether it's 10, $20 or they're paying for their family, they made that decision to go to wrestling instead of going to the movies or staying home or whatever. And it's on us to make sure that we give them their money's worth. So I think that's something that the maybe young guys, maybe they don't understand, or it's not taught to them. It was never said to me, but I figured it out somewhere along the way that it is a responsibility.
Right.
Uh, that when we're out there, when they're leaving the event, to feel like they've gotten their money's worth and that they want to go back. And when you kind of understand that mentality of it, um, I don't know. I think not necessarily that you'll work harder, but it'll change your mentality about what you do a little bit.
I dig it. Okay, well, that gives us the perfect segue. How you feel about answering some fan questions? You dig it?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's
All right.
go.
Let's start. I got to start. The only place we can start is probably your number one fan that I'm aware of in the area. Let's start with Miss Rebecca May Hicks. She's got a good one. What has been your favorite experience during your wrestling career, and what has been your worst experience?
Okay. First off, the best experience is actually a good segue talking about having diehard fans.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best part is over the course of maybe it's because I was always booed for a long time,
Okay.
but over the last few years, especially in this DD trash run, having fans like Rebecca, and she's not the only one. I mean, there are quite a few that will travel to watch us.
For sure.
That alone, knowing that fans will travel to watch you is pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and that's not only in West Virginia, but also Ohio, and a little bit in Pennsylvania, as we've dabbled in there as well. But anytime you go to an event and you see one of your diehard fans, and you know they put in some miles to go see you, that makes you want to hit that extra gear a little bit more. And not only that, but man, having the fans who are kids, that's really cool as well. I love hearing when parents come up to me and they say, "Oh, my kid," when they're running through the house and they're just yelling "DD trash, DD trash." I know parents probably get tired of hearing it, but it warms my heart. Seeing fans who copy my moves, things you don't realize what you're doing sometimes, and then you go back and look, it's like, oh my goodness, they're doing exactly what I was doing.
Right.
And it's not moves. It might be a DDT, or it might be a power driver, but it's like, for me, it might be some of my at times ridiculous dance moves.
Right.
That's really cool. I watched there's a kid in Dayton who they did a fantasy camp, and little dude's, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm really bad at ages, but they did a fantasy camp and they all got to do entrances. And next thing I know, I look up and he's coming out to the stroke and he's doing my entire entrance.
Nice.
And then, I share a lot of pictures of him, but little Jackson, man, he's got my moves down to a pat. Kid in, out of West Virginia, to the point that I I almost had to apologize to his family when I saw some hip swivels, but and I noticed he was doing a dance move of mine that I had done only once or twice, and I didn't realize it was something I did as much, that to the point that now, I do it every match, or I try to share that moment with him. So that is absolutely the best. I mean, I could go into individual experiences where I've wrestled somebody that I watched on TV, or that I've watched that's now on TV,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like the Rascals, all those guys, Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz, Wes Lee. I wrestled all those guys when they were first starting out. Um, wrestled Shane Douglas a dozen times, strutting with Jeff Jarrett, and stuff like that's really cool.
Right.
But having cultivating that fan base has been satisfying, and has let me know that the shoulders that will never be the same. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And to segue into the worst experience, some guys will give you the traveling for non-paydays, and I've got those. I went to Georgia and was handed a pay envelope, and then it was given, or was taken back, because I didn't know that I was the freebie in the car,
Mm.
or I was paid in a $5 check. I was paid in a lottery ticket,
Mm.
various things like that. But the injuries, absolutely, the injuries are the worst. Um, I've dislocated my right shoulder 8 times. I've dislocated my left shoulder 2 times. I've broken my left elbow. I've broken my nose 3 times. Separated my ribs twice, on top of the little aches and whatnot. But the single worst experience was pretty traumatic, and I had to recover from it. It was the fourth dislocation that I had, um, in Madison, Indiana. It was the last one that I had prior to surgery. So this has been 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the process, if you can't get the shoulder back into socket, is you got to go to the ER, and it's a whole thing where your arm's literally just dangling out of socket, and it's extremely painful, uncomfortable. Would not suggest it upon anybody. It's the absolute worst experience. This one in particular was even worse. You see, because they've got to get you set up, they've got to do X-rays, and then they generally gather a team to help pop it back in. And
Mm.
part of the process is they've got to give you twilight anesthesia. And 3 times prior to, I had been given ketamine, which was I had no problems with. In fact, I woke up and would generally, the nurses and doctors looked like muses, fairies, and almost wizards.
Right.
Uh, this time they gave me something completely different. Um, I can visualize the old doctor having the syringe and doing the old flick test. And when he gave it to me, my entire body went, limp like it was supposed to. I didn't lose consciousness like most of the time happens, but my lungs stopped working.
Oh my.
Right. And there was nothing I could do to let them know. I mean, I couldn't blink, couldn't talk, couldn't wiggle a toe. Um, they got the shoulder back in, and I couldn't tell you if that was 10 seconds or a minute. I was close to pinholing, which is when you go out completely, you lose
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. But they had to get the bag gimmick and all that like you see on TV to bring me back and everything. So that experience, it sat with me. I mean, I can visualize that entire thing in my head to this day, to the point that my body in the recovery process from surgery would do weird things. And I never had an anxiety attack prior to that. And that was something that the brain and the body and the soul can separate, and the
Mm-hmm.
body can just start going into fight or flight mode and can get really weird, to the point that 6 weeks after surgery, when I started physical therapy, my first 3 times in physical therapy with girls that I was very comfortable with. I had done physical therapy with them prior to multiple times. They knew my story. They knew about wrestling and all that. I had developed what is called psychogenic tremors, which is where the body just starts shaking uncontrollably,
Oh God.
and cold sweats and things like that. I had to learn breathing exercises and everything, and really weird stuff. Yeah. So the single worst experience would absolutely be that time that whatever happened there. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody.
No doubt. Phew. But here you are, man. Here you are. And to go back to the positive part we was talking about, that fan knowing your moves. Me and you's around the same age. I'm 40 years old. Think about back in our day. There was no kids emulating indie wrestlers. We was all being The Rock or Stone Cold or DX. I mean, does that ever resonate with you to think like the times are different nowadays, man?
I don't know if it resonates, if I've ever had that. I've never maybe looked upon it that way,
Hmm.
but it warms my heart thinking about it like that. That what we do isn't just a falling into the void and nobody's caring. Especially since September, I've really, really, really realized that people care about me, and it's been really hard to want to step away because I in September when the shoulder stuff started, I thought pretty much I was done
Yeah.
then and there. Uh, and then it's seeing people give a damn, that's the motivation to get going and to give them their money's worth and things like that. Um, it's just the coolest experience. It really is. I mean, there's no better thing I can think of than professional wrestling in that. And the the fact that pro wrestling is such a genre that goes across such a wide range of things. I mean, you've got everything from lucha libre to independent wrestling to hardcore wrestling to you name it.
Hmm.
And I'm the type of person that I may not like something myself, but I'm not going to scream into the void that I hate it because
Right.
somebody else does. Because I look at wrestling like music. Like if you don't like one part of it, there's going to be another part that you do like.
Right.
Uh, and just as long as you give a damn, that's what it's about to me. Because I can tell you, I mean, I've dabbled in hardcore wrestling, but I've never been a death matcher. But I've seen Ronnie do death matches, and I've seen the fans in death matches, and that's a whole different fan base too.
Yep.
Extremely hardcore.
Hmm.
Um, and I'd never fault somebody for something that maybe isn't my cup of tea,
Hmm.
because somebody's drinking that cup of tea and good for them. Just again, as long as you give a damn, because without fans, what are we doing this for? I mean,
True.
we're just breaking our bodies
Yeah,
in a selfish way, and pro wrestling's already selfish enough as it is.
that's a good point. Darn good point. Let's go to Justin Baker. Not necessarily a fan. You talked about shitheads earlier. This is my definition of shithead, this guy. Uh, is it true that he once DDT'd a mother bear and raised the cub as his own? Can we put that to rest right now? Truth or fiction?
Um, the mother bear was asking for it,
Okay.
so I mean, I wouldn't do that unprovoked. I will not confirm nor deny uh, raising any cubs that aren't mine, but yeah, anybody who actually knows some of my real story outside of the ring, which I'm pretty private about,
Mm-hmm.
there's some truth to that as well.
Okay. Fair enough. Give us just enough. I appreciate that. Another one, another friend of the past, Dustin Burwell. I don't know, you might know this guy. When's
Sounds
Bombastic Bruce making his return?
never,
Okay.
never. Um, I still got my boots. If you ever see the little bomb on them,
Okay.
there's various shades of. I mean, like I said, I not all of it was a complete Colt Cabana ripoff. I realized that in hindsight, I could see it.
Mm.
Um, but also, I was given advice, and from vets somewhere along the way. Goodness, it was a couple years in. They told me, stop strutting, don't dance, and I listened to them for a while. But then I figured out that what works for me doesn't work for thee.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where sometimes with advice it can generally, a lot of times it's generally coming from a good place, but it's from that person's perspective. So it can be applied, and sometimes it can be applied and maybe it doesn't work, and sometimes it just takes years upon years and reps to just find it. So I mean, there's little aspects of it along the way, but I'm having a lot of fun just being the mobile home wrecker.
Good.
Those
Good.
double wides got to be destroyed. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it, by goodness. I love it. We've got one more from a Nikki Walters. What have you learned from professional wrestling that can be applied to everyday life?
Get back up.
Okay.
Don't always move forward. Don't, whatever analogy you want to use, don't drown, keep swimming. For one, also recognize what you're good at and what you're bad at, and then accentuate the things you're good at and try to not do the things you're bad at. um, I would say those absolutely first and foremost. um, yeah, definitely that.
I dig it. I like it. Heck yeah, man. Well, I've kept you, before we get into the wrap up portion of the show, because believe it or not, I've already kept you for almost an hour. There's been rumblings here and there. I figure you're here. If you don't want to answer the question, that's fine too. But I hear things through the grapevine. We all hear things through the grapevine. You're here. Why not asking you? Is retirement on the cards? Is there a set date? What's the plans?
um, like I said, I know one thing I know for sure is
Mm-hmm.
I've had more matches behind me than I have in front of me. um, but it's a good way to bring up March 30th, Madison, West Virginia, All Star Wrestling. Um, Myself and Shane Storm, we've got a retirement match, and it's going to be one of us is going to retire that night.
Okay.
Loser must retire. Um, our feud with Shane Storm and his buddies have gone on for a long time. I've ruined at least two of his birthdays by putting his face in cake. Um, there, if I lose, I'm done. If I win, I got a little bit left in the tank. But I'll say that there's no better place I'd rather go out than in Madison, West Virginia. And I'm serious when I say that when I die, I want some of my ashes spread in West by God, Virginia, because if there's something I've learned in the last few years, man, we have absolutely been adopted by the Mountain Mama. I mean, I may be from Ohio, but I love, love wrestling in West Virginia.
Heck yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. Can you tell me about the importance of Gary, ASW, ACW, all the promotions, PWL? Tell me how important these folks are to you.
You got fans that care. I've said it before and I said it again, but I mean, I really, really, while I can wrestle in front of the internet crowd, so to speak, who will react to the big fancy moves or the dangerous, risky things or the funny things. Man, there's nothing I love more than cheering their favorite and booing who they don't like. That to
Mm-hmm.
me is RASSLIN. That's wrestling.
Yep.
And man, I love it in West Virginia. Like I said, I feel like we're transplants there. I mean, we only live an hour from the state line, but it's probably my it's. You don't want to pick favorites because everybody always gets this or that, but I will absolutely say I love 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 wrestling in West Virginia. From the AASWs, ACWs, PWLs, RSWs along the way. You give me a good fan base that is just cheering and booing. That's what I love. Gary has really given us a platform over the last couple of years to showcase DD Trash. Um, from the big crowds in Madison um, to the Bash and Beckley. He's put us in the ring with he's put us in the ring with the major players, guys who won the tag belts at WrestleMania.
Right.
It was a pre-show. No, it was WrestleMania. It was in a stadium. It was in front of a huge crowd. There's that platform to put us in the ring with the best. And I look forward to. I look forward to every date that I have, but I'm really, really looking forward to March 30th in Madison.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm glad we touched on that because it should be a fun one. We wish you nothing but the best. Hypothetical, total hypothetical, because I wish you nothing but the best. I hope you win. Hypothetically, it all goes south. There's interference after interference. They just knock you out cold and you lose the match. Do you go out into the sunset happy? Is there any unaccomplished goals? Can you be happy if it all ended on the 30th?
I will be I'll be satisfied if it ended tomorrow.
Okay.
I should have never been a pro wrestler. It was never a plan. I was the kid who thought I was too small. I was maybe not athletic enough. That's where the refereeing years came in, and we didn't even touch on how I got into wrestling. That was all I. If you believe in things happening for a reason, I was pulled into wrestling as a referee.
Okay.
I pulled back into wrestling and became a wrestler. And my goals as a wrestler, my first couple years was just to be one, and then maybe to get respected by my peers or guys who I used to ref matches for. And everywhere along the way, the goalposts got pushed a little bit further. Um, but with what I've accomplished, I'm absolutely happy with everything, for sure.
Yep.
But that also mean that you wouldn't see me pop up here or there because I'm a pretty damn good manager. If you've ever seen me in a sling, managing Ronnie and Voxy and WTF. My days of refing are over with my shoulders. They're done. I mean, uh, they're just done. But I probably need to figure out a way to scratch my wrestling itch, irregardless of what happens. Um, and yeah, we'll see how it goes after March 30th.
I wish you the best. Definitely wish you the best. You do have me curious because I try to do the show where it's not your typical Hannibal shoot interview. But now you have me curious. How did it all start?
Okay. Jim Duggan was Canadian, if that gives you a time frame.
Okay, yeah, WCW 2000, 99, 2000, yeah.
Yeah, it's 2000. Like I said, it gets a little blurry in that time period for me too, because I'm in high school.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a junior. I think I'm a junior in high school. And Jim Duggan had taken some independent dates while he was because they fired him and then they brought him back. And he became Canadian. He clean shaven. The Canadian 2x4 was a hockey stick, and he was appearing at the local Elks Lodge in Chillicothe, Ohio, for the IWA, which was based out of Columbus. And me and my high school wrestling buddy, because everybody always had at least one wrestling buddy in high school.
Right. Yep.
And my buddy Drew, he had a press pass that actually said wrestling on it, because through a course of weird events himself, his mom worked for the Chillicothe Gazette, and he was able to write like a weekly column in the community section of the paper. I believe it was community section, but also that was back when, I don't know if you remember, the newspaper actually had a weekly full page pro wrestling, uh, uh, not article, but just a full page on wrestling news.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
to say
okay.
that the
Mhm.
time period that wrestling was so hot,
Yep.
coming the Attitude Era. And we got the bright idea of interviewing Jim Duggan.
Okay.
We got our digital camera with a 3.5-inch floppy disk drive on it. If you remember the 3.5-inch floppy disks,
Uh-huh.
he had a press pass. So the whole idea was, I'll be the photographer, he'll be the interviewer. And if you've ever been around indie wrestling, anytime anybody says that they can get, whether they're press or they're this or that, someone's going to let them in the back door.
Right.
And we absolutely were let in the back door, being two 16-year-olds with peach fuzz on our face. And Jim Duggan was late that night. But, to appease us, they, had us interview a couple of other people, a tag team by the name of the Po Boys, Cyrus Poe, and Buford and Cyrus Poe,
Okay.
and then a couple of guys in a group called Zero Tolerance, which was Brian Fury, Tommy Chill, and Dangerous Damian Cass. Tommy Chill's still active.
Okay.
Cyrus Poe helps out James Avery with the Ohio Pro Wrestling Academy, so they're all still around. And Damian Cass, I just saw him at the gym recently. He's a transplant to Chillicothe, and we what we eventually did was we eventually ended up with an article on independent wrestling that did show up in the paper. It took us a little while, but along the way we became the guys. I don't even know how to describe us. We were just there, from helping set up and tear down the ring. To I remember doing music uh, with a 5-disc CD changer, which was probably the most stressful job I've ever had in wrestling.
Well, I'm
You know,
sure.
for the days of laptops. So I mean, literally, it was writing down, okay, this is Rage Against the Machine, track number 3, and spot number 1.
Yep.
Uh, to we did a website for Zero Tolerance, and one evening, uh, they needed a referee on an event at the United States of America in Columbus, Ohio, and Dangerous Damian Cass told me to go buy a ref shirt. Just like a lot of refs who end up starting out, it's just knowing somebody, knowing somebody and just being at the right place at the right time. And that kickstarted things for me. I did a handful of shows for the IWA. And then James Avery was like, okay, hey, you're not a shithead. You're not a dummy. I'm going to put you in the car with me. And he picked me up on the way to a show to Portsmouth, Ohio. Me, him, and I'll be damned. James went by Carlton Kaz at the time. And for a good couple year run, me, Carlton Kaz, and I'll be damned was a carload. And we did as many shows, as many places as we could, to the point that, other Columbus guys would call us wrestling whores or what have you.
Cool.
But yeah, it was literally a press pass and a digital camera that got us into backstage, and then like just a crazy series of events. And it was actually, believe it or not, it was Jeremy Madrox I've mentioned him before.
Uh-huh.
He had left the IWA to go to a rival promotion back, the crosstown rival promotions. Well, his dad was a referee, and he, because of all of that, we talk about synchronicities. Like I said, Jeremy leaving the IWA, his dad going with him. Dad opened up the spot for me to become a referee. I go on the road with James and Albie Dam. And then years later, when I'm out of the business, and then I go to that random show in Lancaster, Jeremy Madrox is the one that recognizes me. And the show's promoted by James Avery, main evented by Albie Dam versus Ron Mathis.
Okay.
Jeremy Madrox is the one that tells me to get in the car with Ron Mathis. And 11 years later, here we are. So some weird, and like I said, synchronicities, things work out in the ways they do. But yeah, I've it's definitely not the standard I went to wrestling school
Right.
answer for me, at least.
Right on.
I probably have the one of the most unique experiences and educations in wrestling, because it wasn't like, because guys will start out as a ref and they'll ref for like a year as they're training just because they need a body. No, I was pretty good as a referee. Yeah, and I can even send you a match or two that's not that it's weird. It's like I had some weird experiences as a referee that I was fortunate, probably before I should. My TNA appearance is very much that, where I was just there with a carload of guys, and the third ref that normally would have been there wasn't there. He was out with pink eye, and I was able to appear on TV, or on pay-per-view, I guess, at that point.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And also along the way, it's pretty funny in hindsight, because it was an embarrassing experience, because I ended up on pay-per-view with an untucked ref shirt, to the point that I had text messages afterwards saying, good job looking unprofessional, dumbass,
Yeah.
along the
Well, they
way.
weren't going to say good job.
Yeah, but it was Vince Russo who told me not to tuck my shirt in, because they were, the way it was supposed to work out, and of course, in typical Vince Russo fashion, it didn't work out the way that maybe he had booked it, so to speak.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, and
Heck yeah.
like I had another experience where I was in the ring in Chicago for CM Punk's last match, not as the referee, but for the post match,
Okay.
and because they did a big, it was him and Colt Cabana, and they did a big, everybody in the locker room toasted Pepsi, and his parents were there and what have you. And you can probably, I'm wearing a blue hat in a corner. If there's ever a picture, I feel like Forrest Gump sometimes in wrestling, that I'm just kind of there, or I witness something, or
Right.
I see things like before it's there. Like I was at HWA when John Moxley literally had his first matches um, as a football player.
Okay.
If I didn't ref his first match, I probably refed his second, third, or fourth, because there was only me and Joe Lopez there.
Okay.
Um, uh, Cody Hawk, who is a trainer to the Stars, Mathis's trainer, even he's the trainer on Micro Brawlers. He was the referee for my very first match, which was a referee versus referee match with Joe Lopez in
Nice.
'05. So that was my official first match, but I didn't have another match until 2013. And then I just looked at his cage match recently with EC3. I was there at the beginning, working Cleveland shows for NEPW. I wasn't there for the first match. That was at Mega Wrestling, but the second through 15th, they brought in Tracy Smothers to wrestle the Deviant, he was called. And I was there for EC3's first matches as well. And that's a good segue to hype up Ronnie, my road wife, my tag team friend.
Hmm.
He's wrestling for the NWA title for Rise Wrestling. Oh, I believe that's March 9th. So, I'll be in the house for that. And that's a
Nice.
big opportunity there. And that's something that when you see your friends get cool opportunities like that, you you got to just be happy for him and proud, and hope that he can get that NWA title and bring it back to old Chillicothe. And you know
Let's hope so. Yeah, hey, we're getting all of EC3's contenders on the show recently, so if he can get through Ashton Day, then Ronnie can take him out. Maybe we can get in contact with Ashton, have him soften him up at least after the
Yeah,
match.
well, Ashton's a guy, man, who I wouldn't call him a young guy or whatever. I don't know Ashton's story completely, but I watched him It was for Dombrowski's promotion in Cleveland. I think it was called Premier at the
Premier.
time.
Yep.
And he was a skinny kid, and he played a guitar. And I can't remember exactly what. I just remember he was a skinny kid playing a guitar. I can't remember the full story with everything there. But fast forward coming out of the pandemic, he hit the ground running,
Yep.
and he looks great.
Yeah.
And I watched a little bit of him, and I think it was Kryzak from the RSW Cleveland.
Mhm.
And I was blown away by some things that I had never seen before.
Mhm.
Ways that he was minimizing no wasted motion, finding ways to maneuver in the ring, and just yeah, that guy's put in some work both in the gym and in the ring, and he's got something for
Yep.
sure, for
110,
sure.
110% agree. Yeah, definitely. Can't wait to see where he's going with things. You was talking about all the places, how you pop up Forrest Gump. You were even around, according to your cage match, you were working the FMWE H2O show where Onita was over here. Wasn't you and Ronnie on the card?
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. That was an experience.
Yeah.
That was an experience. I was in. It was me and Voxy actually in a four-way tag.
Okay.
And, Ronnie was representing H2O because that was in the middle of the H2O 440 feud.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he was in either a 6 or an 8 man, and I was in a four-way tag where that was quite the match for us because I uh, kissed Jeff Cannonball,
Ah.
tried to lure him into leaving the ring with me, and it was all just a bait and switch so that we could hit our finishers on him and his wife, Tara Calloway.
Okay.
Uh, and congratulations to them; they just had a baby. But yeah, that was pretty cool, and to be there for the exploding match, and seeing, unfortunately, seeing Matt Tremont all burnt up afterwards. I mean, Matt's he's a bulldozer, and what you see in the ring is not what you see outside of the ring. Not to take his mystique away because I think everybody knows he's just a sweetheart.
Right.
He loves the WTF boys with me, Voxy, and Ronnie. We've been multiple time tag champs. Ronnie's like 3-time H2O champion.
Okay.
And we've always been fortunate for the opportunities he's given us there because it's not cheap to get our carload 9 hours to Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
but him and his wife Chrissy have always taken care of us. And yeah, it's been a few months since we've been there, but I always, always, always will cherish the time in New Jersey, and that event was definitely something.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching live from home on IWTV. I remember counting down the days because I'm an Onita dork, I'm a Tremont dork, so that was an important show to be a part of. When it's all said and done, at least from my mark ass, I think it was important. So for what it's worth.
Absolutely. I mean, you could probably track a lot of times over my years of being in a weird position where I probably shouldn't, or being in the background somewhere, or just something stupid, and feel like I said, the Forrest Gump of wrestling at times, just because, man, when I stop and think about it, a lot of miles, a lot of memories, a lot of matches, and a lot of good moments. And for that, I'm forever will be grateful. No matter what happens March 30th.
Good. That's what we try to do with this show. At least, you got to sit down, think about it, and put it out there for the folks that don't know. And I've kept you well past what I told you I'd keep you. I appreciate you hanging on here with me. In the final 10 minutes of the show, Bruce, I give everybody the chance to slang your merchandise, put out your social medias if you want to, upcoming dates where folks can see you. At the same time, if you have any up and coming advice for up and coming talent, or if you just have something you need to get off your chest, the platform's all yours, Bubba. You can have at it.
Okay, I'll probably forget something along the way in terms of appearances. I know coming up, and I don't know when this will drop, but this coming weekend, what is that? The 24th, I'm at Ascend Wrestling in Cincinnati, Ohio. The 25th, which is a Sunday, I'll be in Bluefield, West Virginia for the Premier Wrestling League. The following Friday, we're back at the skating rink for Premier Wrestling League, but it's a big
Mercermania.
That's a big event with a lot of folks from a lot of places. We'll be there representing XVW.
Okay.
Uh, and XVW, I don't have anything going on there myself, but they are in the process of, well, actually, I think it was last night, they just had a soft opening with a new building. So they're looking to get the hitting the ground running, I believe, in March, probably. Like I said, support them if you're in the Dayton area. March 2nd, I'm at, and I got to say this, Ryder Ronnie will kick my butt. I'm at Desire Pro Wrestling in Zanesville, Ohio. That's actually a fun one. I'll earmark that since if time's not an issue. That's a
Sure.
fun experience there because myself and Ronnie are wrestling Theo Strong and his father, CO Hustler. CO
Oh.
Hustler's coming out of retirement, but he is one of those Columbus guys from the time that I was breaking in as a 16-year-old. Now, if I'm turning 40 next week, so he's got the miles on even more than I do, but he's still in really good shape. And I know he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve because he kept me on my toes as a referee. Um, March 8th is Paradigm Pro. We're doing another bulk taping in the Kentuckiana area. March 9th is that Rise date in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. Oh my goodness. I know I'm forgetting the very next couple of weeks. I'm drawing a blank on, I have a full schedule with at least 2 shows a week. Let me see if I can do this without messing things up here.
Okay. You're good. You're
You
good.
still got me, right?
Yeah, man. You're good.
All right. Yeah, my THCTE brain has gone blank on a couple of weeks
I
here. Knew I
understand.
should have.
Plus, you're a busy dude.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into March, and I don't know how I could forget. Okay, yes, March 15th, Spot Monkey Promotions in the Cincinnati area. March 16th, we're doing another Slock Plaza event. Um, those are always fun, and those are free events in downtown Charleston. And actually, I did have the 22nd full. That is now no longer the case. So March 22nd is the only open Friday I have. Uh, March 23rd, we are in Nitro, West Virginia. Uh, then the 29th, Nelsonville. I believe that date should still be coming up. I got to double check that one. That was a tentative date in my calendar for XWE. And then the big one, March 30th, Madison, West Virginia, All Star Wrestling. Myself, Shane Storm, one of us, one of us is going to retire.
Yeah. Well, ooh, that's a big one to say
Yep,
the least. That's two
yep,
big names in the area, by goodness.
yep. I mean, it's going to be a thing that uh, both staples for a long time, both veterans for a long time. Either one of us will leave a void on a card. I'll give Shane Storm his props in a lot of ways. He's got the most punchable face I've ever seen in wrestling.
Right on.
But he's good, and I'm gonna have to be on my toes that night as well. Um, and for advice, I think for guys coming up, get out, get your reps in, wrestle guys better than you. Um, Figure out, remember what I said about making sure that you give the fans their money's worth.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one, whatever that may be. And looking like if you're on a flyer that somebody's wanting to see you for the first time, because in a lot of cases, you may be wrestling for somebody for the first time. So no matter who you are, they need to be able to digest that within 30 seconds of your entrance or the first couple minutes of your match. If you want them to care about you, it's not just about what you can do in the ring. It's the whole package because professional wrestling is a lot of things um, in a lot of ways. And there's a reason why rock stars want to be pro wrestlers. There's a reason why comedians want to be pro wrestlers. There's a reason why actors want to be wrestlers because we take the best aspects of all forms of entertainment, and that's pro wrestling. It's not just one part of it. It's every part of it. And it's the absolute most fun that you'll have getting hurt that I could think of. Um, and more than anything else, enjoy the ride. Write down your matches. I did for my first couple of years, then I didn't. And my cage match only shows a fraction
Exactly.
of matches that I've had. In fact, if you look at my moves, there's not a move on there that I do, and I don't know where I got those from. Like if it doesn't list my DDT on cage match, that tells you that it is not valid because my DDT, from the moment I mastered it, I said it and I believed it. I was the modern day master and ruler of the DDT because I figured out how to do the original recipe DDT the most effective way because I combined Arn Anderson's and Jake Roberts' techniques and I put my own spin on it. And there's a reason why only one man, one time has ever kicked out of it. And that man is the strongest, toughest, and trashiest man that I know. And that's Ron Mathis.
Yeah,
So,
not your average Joe on the street.
exactly.
Or
Exactly. It
even
happened
your
once.
average Joe in the ring, for that matter.
Exactly. It only happened once. He'll remind me every once in a while to humble me. But yeah, just get your reps in, work at it. Because, I mean, we're in the wrestling business. And, there's guys like me and Mathis that have literally paid our bills with wrestling.
Mm.
It's okay if you're not in a position to do that. But at the same time, then you also have to understand where guys like us are coming from. And also that the fans want their money's worth and that you need to treat it with the respect of that. Whether it's putting the time in the gym or applying the reps or what have you, there's nobody that you don't want a fan to watch you and go, oh, well, good for them. They're living their dream and trying. Maybe one day they might figure it out. No, yeah, and you don't want a fan to look away and go to their phone, and you don't want to be the bathroom break guy. You don't want to be any of those things. So, and none of that gets easy. Nobody's good when they first start out. If you look at Kurt Angle, there's Kurt Angle matches from Memphis. And he is probably the most complete package when it comes to being a professional wrestler. And he was an Olympic gold medalist. And even him, when he was green and he's having those matches in Memphis, he's figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it takes. It takes reps and mileage in matches and trying things out and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Oh yeah, good advice from a man who knows. From a man who knows. Like I say, I haven't met many as respected as you, Ron. So props for all you've done. Definitely wish you the best coming up. Looks like our paths will cross again soon. It looks like I'll see you at Mercer Mania. If you guys are representing XBW, me and Billy Knox are coming up repping EIW. So hopefully, we can get along this time and everybody can just have a good time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Billy Knox kicked me in the head and, put a little lumps on me. So I'm glad not to be standing across the ring from him this time.
Good. Heck yeah, my man. I can't thank you enough. If you don't mind, I'll ask you to hang on the line with me. But to the listeners, again, this is why we do it, folks. Living their dreams, overcoming adversity. Go out there and treat each other with kindness and respect. Support independent wrestling. You have the dates. Come out and check out Bruce Gray. Check out DD Trash. Hope to see you at Mercer Mania or one of the shows. It's been another wonderful WrestleRoni. We'll see you on the next go round.
I told you what was up, baby! Tonight it's falls count anywhere. AJ positioning the table. He's got it set up now. But will he have the strength and enough power? Absolutely. He's got some kind of way to stand. Let's do that. The biggest win was right here in Pittsburgh in November '97, as they won a big four-way dance to retain the ECW Tag Team title. I was there that night. It made me proud to be a half-blood Italian.
I think we're in danger of this match becoming a dance contest with Smothers out there.
Especially if Jacobs gets going. Here comes Fabulous. Flying body press. Smothers is down for 2. And a jumping sidekick puts Fabulous on the mat for 1, 2. No, Fabulous.
Great mark.
Introducing first, from Chillicothe, Ohio, weighing in at 3 1/4 pounds, the White Trash Messiah, Ron Mathis. And his opponent, he is the Wheelchair Wrestling West Virginia Grand Champion, from Ohio, the Master and Ruler of the DDT, Bruce Grey.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is your high guy, your fly guy, the truth from the booth. They call me Bake, and we call this RSW Rewind. And what a match we have this week. It is Ron Mathis challenging Bruce Grey for the RSW West Virginia Grand Championship as our official Mr. 1, 2, 3 gonna check both competitors before we get the action underway. The bell rings and this one is live. Two absolute fan favorites here in RSW. It is the White Trash Messiah versus the Master and Ruler of the DDT. Fans split right down the middle here in Fairmont, West Virginia. A hotly anticipated match. Are we gonna get a handshake to start this thing off? Yes, we are. Both men circle, stare at each other down. The lockup. And Ron Mathis trying to execute some of that strength. You see Bruce trying to slide out of the way, but continues to be backed into the corner, just doing all he can to shift that weight a little bit. The lockup goes nowhere. The strength of Mathis, the elusiveness of Grey. We are at a standstill in the early stages of this one. Both men gauging what they will do, thinking about their next moves, soaking in the response of these fans, and another lockup. This time pure strength from Ron Mathis. Grey into the corner. Clean break, but Ron immediately sends Bruce into the corner. Bruce tip up. Mathis goes chest first, goes for the DDT early, jackknife cover. Again, runs in, now Schoolboy from the champ. Mathis able to kick out at 2, goes for the line. Gray trying so hard to get that backslide. And does. Shoulders down. Only a 2 count. Mathis right there. Small package. Rolled through. Shoulders back down now. Down yet again. Multiple pin attempts the early stages of this one. Just in case you were wondering what kind of match this was going to be. Fans in attendance still split down the middle, still chanting at the top of their lungs. And a fist bump from champion and challenger and a slap from the white trash messiah. You should expect that from somebody with that name. Bruce off the ropes, do-si-do sends Ron, big drop kick. Mathis out to the floor. Bruce eyeing him up, going for the plancha. Mathis out of the way, sidestep, but another big slap to the face. Now these two trading shots right there on the floor. Right hand after right hand, now the forearms. And this has turned into an absolute slugfest. As now both men sent face first into the side of the ring multiple times, and as a professional wrestling announcer, it is my duty to inform you that that is indeed the hardest part of the ring, but to no effect on either of these men. We'll see how Bruce Gray fares now after having his head dribbled like a basketball. And he is still standing. Low kick to the gut, now it's Mathis's turn. One after another. I don't know how either of these two men are standing after that exchange on the floor. Knife edge chop rocks the chest of the champ when one in response. European uppercut after European uppercut. Both men extremely evenly matched here, as we are seeing. Ron Mathis looking to change that with a snap suplex on that bare floor. Gray back up, grabbing at the back but not stopping. Blocks that double axe handle, responds with a snap suplex of his own. This match has been nothing but anything you can do, I can do better. Both men nose to nose. Arms wide open. Back into the ring we go. Now nose to nose before the slugfest continues inside the ropes. Ron looking to break it up, that low knee to the breadbasket. Picking up Steve off the ropes. Into the Thez press, the right hands a-flying from the man from Knock'em Stiff, Ohio. Gray with a gigantic right. Mathis rocked, now being sent pillar to post, but comes out with the drive-by neck breaker. I'm pretty sure Ron Mathis is not human. I have seen this man take beating after beating, and he is doing that here tonight and continuing to move forward. Now looking for another neck breaker. This one a whole lot slower, making the champ think about it. Hooked in that front face lock, looking for another suplex. Bruce Gray is up. Ron making him think about it. Gray trying to fight back with those shots to the abdomen. No effect. The stalling vertical suplex is real. And a squat for good measure. There it is. All the blood rushing to the head of Bruce Gray before being dropped with the vertical suplex. Ron Mathis says the championship is coming home with him tonight. Gray with the reversal on the Irish whip. Telegraphed that back body drop a little too early. Now a swinging neck breaker to the champ. Gray able to kick out at 2. Ron Mathis already showing 3 different neck breaker variations in the early stages here. Trying to weaken the neck of Bruce Gray for that patented pile driver as we see him going for it. Bruce very smart. Backs Ron Mathis into the turnbuckles. Trying to slow things down, charges in, eats a back elbow for his trouble. Tries it again, both boots up from Mathis. And another drive-by neck breaker, continuing to soften the neck. Cover. 2 count only as this one will continue. Now looking to slow things down. That neck crank in deep. You see Bruce trying to roll his way out of it, trying to alleviate some of that pressure. But Mathis has an extraordinary grip. Gray now up to a knee. Trying to get his vertical base back, and does. Breaks the hold, now fires off a trifecta of right hands. Goes off the ropes. Big snap power slam from Mathis. Cover, deep hook in the leg. Only a 2 count. The champion showing the resiliency that has brought him not just the West Virginia Grand Championship, but also the Ohio Grand Championship. West Virginia on the line here tonight. Big knife edge chop. I felt that all the way up here. Going for a second. Bruce ducks out of the way. Thankfully, that may have caved in a chest. Send to the corner. Looking for another one, reverberating through this building. Mathis not done. Sounds like shotguns going off in this building. I'm looking to come in hot. Gray out of the way, dodges the body avalanche. Gray trying to come in, catches the leg, saw it coming from last time. Discus forearm to the back of the neck. Holds on, drops the elbow into the chest. You see that whiplash. Smashed Mathis down on the back of his neck into the cover. And what a smart cover there. You saw Mathis was holding his head, so both arms behind the head, and Bruce Gray laid across the top of the chest, pinning everything down to the mat, but not hooking a leg. And that is what let Ron Mathis get out of that pinning predicament. Gray called for the DDT. Says it only takes one. Instead, a back body drop's going to get Ron Mathis out of trouble here. Ron Mathis trying to bring himself back into this match, psyching himself up for a big possible win. Tip up and over onto the apron, catches the boot from Gray, now has him hooked, and instead decides to plant him down on the back of the head with a modified Uranagi. Or an STO, depending on how you look at it. Ron going up to the top rope. You don't see it often. And you see he was a little uneasy. Bruce Gray charges in with the right hands, knocks Mathis down. Mathis now rocked, sitting on that top turnbuckle, trying to regain his composure, but don't wait too long because Bruce Gray is there. Has the suplex hooked. Going all the way to the top. And all the way down with the superplex. Both men down on the mat after the devastating effects of the superplex. Bruce slides over, deep cradle on that hook, but Ron Mathis still in this matchup. Bruce Gray knows what he has to do here. You see him swing through and drop the elbow. Now drops that short forearm. Shades a stunning Steve. Up and down, drops the leg, brother. Hooks the leg. Only a 1 count, no effect on Mathis. Bruce Gray calling for it. Has Ron hooked, but the strength pushes him into the corner, rolls through, buries the shoulder into the midsection. Now it's Bruce Gray's turn to sit on top that rope. Big uppercut connects under the jaw. Ron gonna follow him up, could be looking for a superplex of his own. That has been the story of this match. Bruce trying to fight back. Big forearm. A headbutt. Mathis is down, but landed on his feet. Charges in with the European. Gray rocked. Mathis gonna follow him back up. Go right back to where he... No. Instead, has him hooked. Huge fall away slam. Say hello to the trashy guy. Now crawling for the cover, but Gray, very smart, rolled under the rope, now falls to the outside. That was a damn near guaranteed 3 count. But the champ with the ring awareness could have saved his title. Now we are back out on the floor, and I have no problem saying this is Ron Mathis territory. But instead opts to send the champion back in. Ron looking to keep this thing clean. Well, as clean as trash can be. And Gray waiting for him with another one of those right hands. Oh no! Hits Mathis with his own move to no effect! Mathis pulling himself back up to his feet immediately. Low boot into the DDT, and Gray not having it. And now it's a chop fest. What is it going to take to end this matchup? Gray getting the better of the exchange, one extra chop. Bruce, though, able to roll through, hang on, up and down. Vertical suplex high on the shoulders, back press, leg hooked. 2 count yet again. And Ron has that look in his eyes, the what do I have to do? And I think everybody watching and everybody in the building knows what it's gonna take. One pile driver or one DDT will end this match. Now looking for another neck breaker. Gray able to roll through, jawbreaker, rocks Mathis. Catches the clothesline, rolls through, Harley Race style facebuster on the knee, hits Mathis with a drive-by neck breaker of his own. These two know each other so well, and you are seeing it more and more as this matchup continues. Mathis trying to pull himself back up to his feet. Has to use those ropes. Gray on the opposite side doing the exact same thing. And a collision dead center of the ring. Both men thinking the exact same idea, double big boots. Now Mathis ducks the clothesline. Gray ducks the clothesline. Double crossbody, both men connect in the center. Well, one of the things they always say is to be successful in this business, you have to always know what your opponent is going to do. Well, these two are taking that to an entirely different level. We've seen each man use the other's finisher. We have seen each man think the same idea on numerous occasions. We have also seen both of these men with an uncanny level of resilience. And it is not over yet. Bruce goes low, could be looking to make it that way with the DDT. No. Double underhook into the Tiger Bomb. Almost a 3 count there. Gray able to kick out, now trapped in the crossface. Mathis doing absolutely anything he can in this matchup. Using things I have not seen in a long time from him. Will the champion submit? Will the champion pass out? No. Instead rolls Mathis back. 2.5, almost ended this one. Charges in, now has Gray up, spins through, into the reverse pile, or inverted tombstone, excuse me. And the foot on the ropes. You can see the frustration. Mathis knew that inverted tombstone was gonna win him this match. And the ring awareness of the champion coming into play one more time. But if you take a look at Bruce Gray, he can barely move here. And Mathis knows it. Backs him into the corner. Now sends Gray pillar to post. But a drop kick out of the corner from Gray. Where is he getting this? Now it could be Bruce Gray's turn as he ascends up to the top rope. And flying crossbody, Mathis though rolls through. Look at the strength! Up onto the shoulders. Swings him out, TKO! Cover! 2.9. We have a chicken wing on our hands, folks. Absolutely stunned. Now I'm wondering what it's going to take. Mathis calling for the pile driver. Looking for his best shot to be the last shot. Center of the ring. Gray, though, able to fight out of it. Back body drop. Catches DDT. But Mathis able to roll out of the ring. Both men hitting home run shots. And the other man either rolling out of the ring, putting a foot on the bottom rope, doing anything they can to survive. Gray likes to say that it only takes one when talking about the DDT, and 99 out of 100 times he's correct. Mathis proving to be the exception to the rule. Now coming in, Mathis catches him, pile driver. Back press, leg hooked. No, no, Gray rolls him through, crucifix, that's it. Bruce Gray wins.